withheld. We have Russia, which is committing massive human rights abuses, massive crimes against humanity, and even, you know, there are those who say are even on the verge of committing something resembling genocide in Chechnya. There's China, which has, to say the least, an unillustrious human rights record. There's the United States, which doesn't allow itself to be hemmed in by international law. Again, not to put the United States in the same camp as, you know, Russia for its activities in Chechnya, but in the eyes of the rest of the world, we are the aggressor of late. We're more of an aggressor than Russia because we've left our own borders. Just again, one doesn't have to defer to the rest of the world all the time, but it's worth knowing how we're seen and also how this Security Council is seen. Needless to say, that the Security Council composition, Britain, France, China, Russia, and the United States, these are the World War II victors. Well, France thrown in just for as a as a sop. But those are the World War II victors. What about representativeness now in today's world? What about just even on the basis of population? If the war on terrorism is the defining event of our time, can we really persist in having no country from the Middle East, no country with much of an Islamic tradition at all represented on the Security Council in any kind of permanent way? It needs attention. There are lots of things we could do. We could sort of decide that the Security Council no longer has the legitimacy that we once gave it, so we don't consider it sort of one-stop shopping. And we come up, maybe the Secretary General himself has to be the authorizer. Would we vest that power in him? Well, the United States probably wouldn't. Other countries might. The problem with Security Council reform, which is so important to getting the international system right, is that, of course, it'll be the permanent 5 members who will have to go along with reform. Indeed, who will have to encourage it. It's the permanent 5 who will have to choose to vest authority in the United Nations. And unfortunately, most of the permanent 5 members, while they will bash the United Nations, will do very little to strengthen it. Very little to give Kofi Annan, for instance, a standing army or something that he could call upon if a genocide threatened tomorrow in Burundi, or in Gujarat in India, or in Aceh in Indonesia. There are so many cases where these kinds of crimes could happen again, and yet we are dependent on states to do the ponying up or the cowboying up, as is being said these days in Boston. States don't pony up for things outside their perceived national interest, again, unless we all get involved.